Hi, Victoria.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And I just want to thank you on my behalf and on behalf of so many people who go through similar things. Many times we think that we are alone in our problems, but what you'll find surprisingly comforting is that a lot of us go through the same problems. And it really, really helps to know that others do as well. And um, by you volunteering, what happens is that volunteering this recording and for it to be posted on YouTube, what happens is that multitudes of people throughout the world benefit from it. And Victoria here is joining me from an international destination. This is not her real name. We have changed it together, and so that you can know that this is not whom you're thinking of, and try not to focus on her identity, rather focus on what you're learning through this thing, this conversation. So Victoria, as we begin the session,
Yes.
please do tell me, what do you feel is your goal from the session? At the end of the session, what would you like to have learned?
My goal for the end of this session is to help me be a little bit, actually be more decisive with what I'm battling in my head presently. I'm in the midst of a divorce and I have considered and contemplated going back to see if there's the possibility that my husband and I would be able to make our marriage work. And I'm very torn on that decision because he is a difficult person and he likes to be manipulative and kind of tell you the things that you'd like to hear at the time that you want to hear them, but is not great at always following through with what he says.
Okay.
And my heart is telling me that I feel like I need to try to give this one more shot for myself and for my husband and for my family. But my head is telling me that perhaps it's not the right decision and that I could be going back into a situation that I was no longer wanting to be part of.
Yeah. So, and presently you are separated
Yes,
in a different location or in the same location?
different location.
And I know that from our conversations that you also have children.
Yes,
So, and young children. So that is something that is definitely at play as well.
yes.
So, and how long approximately would you say your marriage has been for?
The marriage has been for 10 years
Yeah. So this
and
is, yeah. Go ahead,
we've
please.
been a couple for 12 years.
Wow. So you really know him for a long time.
Yes.
Mhm. So tell me, Victoria, a little bit about how did you guys get here? Do you know how you guys got here to
To
this
the
place?
divorce.
To this place where two people getting together, creating a beautiful union together, would come to a place. What do you think, from your perspective, happened to the marriage to bring it up to this place?
Well, we lack at communication with each other. We're not good communicators. It
Mhm.
usually turns into more of a heated argument than it can be a discussion. And um, previously, we hadn't spent a whole lot of time together.
Mhm.
Typically, for the job, he travels and is gone sometimes even 360 days out of the year. So
Wow.
we don't spend a lot of time together. And in the beginning, all of our trips together were pretty carefree and to very nice destinations. And I had the flexibility to just go when I chose. My job was very lenient at the time. And if he would ask me to go on a trip, I could just pack up and go the next day. So it was very easy for me to be flexible and kind of do whatever he had requested. And I willingly would follow through with what his requests were for trips or however we would be able to see each other. And like I say, it was carefree in the beginning. And then, as the relationship went on and we got married, then we got a place to live together in a house and there became a little bit more responsibility. And
Yeah.
then further into the relationship, we decided to start a family together, and that definitely changed my ability to be able to do the things that he asked at the time that he asked, and I kind of prioritized myself and my family a little bit differently. And my child became my primary focus.
Yeah.
And for the last several years, I've been a stay-at-home mother, and I've focused all of my attention onto my child. I would say our relationship started to decline um,
Uh-huh.
several years ago, and asked for the help of counseling and things at that time, and that was declined by my husband. So we kind of just kept going along, and things just kept deteriorating and deteriorating. And then with the pandemic and the loss of
Oh, yeah.
his job, we ended up ultimately spending days upon days together, and we've never had that experience in our relationship previously.
Yes.
And it took a serious toll on both of us.
Yeah.
And
The relationship wasn't set
excuse me.
up by that time. The relationship was not set up to spend that much time together.
No, it wasn't. We kind of had our own responsibilities, and would take care of the things that I needed to take care of, and he was still able to be pretty carefree except for the financial aspect of things. And that's kind of how the relationship had always remained. And
Mhm.
even with the pandemic, he would still go away for extended periods of
Mm.
time to take breaks, and it got to the point where we were just kind of like fight or flight. So either we would fight, or he would flee,
Okay.
and then I got to the point where I shut down.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So tell me about the shutdown.
I would be very careful about what I would say to him constantly. I felt like I was walking on eggshells,
Yeah.
and I would be cautious about how I would approach him to even ask for a simple thing, because the it could turn into a huge ordeal. And
Yeah.
I would a lot of times just not even say anything, or let him speak and just sit there and silently take whatever was being said to me. A lot of
Right.
times criticism and um, comments about me not doing things the way that I should, or
Okay.
parenting properly. You know, even chauvinistic comments like, "You're the wife, you need to be doing the laundry, doing all
Okay.
the cooking," and things like that. So
A
those
lot
sort
of
of things.
hurtful things. A lot of hurtful things, not
Yes.
really the man you married.
No, no. They were very hurtful
Who was the
things.
man you married? Can you tell me about that one? What was he like?
Well, he was very outgoing, very
Mhm.
caring, has always been spontaneous, and that was part of what I think attracted me to him. He helped me discover a side of myself that I had never experienced before. And we did lots of fun things together, but we didn't have the care or the concern that you must have when you have a family.
And
So the
who were you?
dynamics were different.
Yeah. And who were you back then? Who was he and who was that guy in a relationship with?
Um, a very much more outgoing woman who
Hmm.
was very flexible, and basically at that point I had come out of a previous long-term relationship where I was kind of the one who was in charge. So I was willing to kind of relinquish control and let another person be the one who was able to make most of the decisions and call, most of the shots, and help plan things.
Yeah.
He would do all of the planning. So, and that was nice for me to take a break, but I
Beautiful.
was very willing to do pretty much
Receive.
whatever he had asked.
Yeah. A lot more feminine energy here at that time.
Yeah.
Very, very, you know, open to things and open to receive rather than doing. But when
Yes.
you describe your life to me, it sounds to me like there are multitudes of time where not only is there an expectation from your husband, but you are accepting that expectation to do a lot. So it seems like later on in the marriage, as the marriage progressed, you did take on some part of taking over and making things work and making him happy. And if I and that kind of mindset that one can get into, that if I only do this, if I only do that, then my husband will be happy.
Yes.
So
And
tell me about that.
I guess I have taken on that mindset, yes. Um, and I would do whatever I felt like I could do in my power to try to make him happy, and I feel like I don't know if I ever really truly succeeded at that.
Yeah. Since you know a lot about that, tell me, does that ever work? Like, there are many of those, if I only do whatever, I'm prettier, smarter, thinner, work harder, cook better, have kids, be good with the kids, organize. That list is never ends, right? So what is your experience with it, that once you get to that place that, hey, yes, now I can cook better, or I'm more organized, you get there, and then what?
Well, you can feel like it's good enough for yourself, but it still doesn't seem to be good enough for the other person.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's this sense that I can never satisfy the other person. And unfortunately, the reason, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to have excellence in you. It's beautiful to want to do things the way,
Yes.
in an excellent way. Um, but it seems like in those times that was not coming from within you, it was coming as a transaction, that if I do this, then my partner would want me.
Yeah, I would agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. And this part, I just want to remind you, and I'm going to talk about it later, is called the transaction part. And what I notice is two beautiful people falling in love, equals and equally interested in each other. Maybe one a little bit more, but both very respectful and loving with each other. And
Yes.
somehow with time, taking on these roles where either there was a reception problem, where if you're going to give me love, then I have to make it a transaction. Then I have to show you that I can do this and that to earn the love. However, that's really not true. Or maybe it was an assumption on your part, and it looks like sometimes you were being asked outright to do that, right? Because you were saying that he
Yeah.
said to
Yes.
me.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and but understand that when he's asking you outright to do it, there's still that moment where you are agreeing to do it with him. It's very important to understand those little pieces where it is our responsibility, because it allows us to notice the places in our lives where we have choice.
Yes. I can definitely
Because what
see
I
what you're
will tell
saying
you,
by that
Victoria, is
too.
that if you had this pattern, and you told me in your last relationship you had a pattern like that too, where you were taking over and you were doing everything, which is why when you came in this relationship, you really loved being taken care of. You loved receiving. You loved for him to make plans and this and that. And something happened there. And then once again, it became a transactional relationship. So this is definitely something for you to watch out for. And what I realize is that you are a woman who loves love, who loves to love other people and to receive love. Would I be right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, I would do absolutely anything to show my love and appreciation and
Yeah.
gratitude for
Yeah.
someone.
And also, it seems you would do a lot to get love from your partner. Yes.
Yes, I would. Yes, reflecting back, yes,
And
I
so,
would
so
do a
the
lot to
one
give
of the
love.
things I'm going to identify to you is to make sure that you start getting really, really good at receiving the love, like you were in the
Okay.
beginning of the relationship, owning it, receiving it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
before too long, I want to jump in to the reason why you are here, which is you explained to me, look, this is all that's happened, and it's great that you're identifying all of these things that I have to fix later, but what about now? My problem is right now, in the moment, I need to make a decision. And I have these
Yes.
two issues going on where the heart is saying, I hear the heart, and the heart says, there's more, give it another chance. But the head says
Yes.
no, it's not right.
Correct. Yes.
Mhm. And so you just don't know which one to listen to and what to do.
That's very correct.
Yes. So I want to tell you that, I have so many people in this spot, and it's a very important spot to be in. And deciding about the future of your relationship, even if you didn't have children, which is not the case here, the splatters go far. Divorce is very expensive, not just monetarily. In fact, less monetarily at times than emotionally in other ways. It's very hard. One can say, I don't like this, I don't like that. It is very, very hard to dismantle and get rid of years of being together.
Yes.
You let go of an empire that you created together.
Yes.
Much harder than people think that it is. So you never want to be that person who later on regrets it. And I have a very large subset of people who will come to me after the divorce is done and realize that they have a beautiful relationship with their partner now, and their partner has a beautiful relationship with somebody else. And everything that they wanted their partner to do, now that person is doing. That really hurts. It hurts in a special place.
Oh, well, I'm sure that it would
Yeah.
very much hurt. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you definitely want to make sure, and there's no whatever. Maybe he's going to have a great relationship somewhere else, but it's important that he does it here. That's not a reason not to make this decision, but the decision has to be made at this moment for our purposes from a place that's solid. That's not going to change its mind with a change. So I want to go into this whole thing where I'm trying to see if I have the right colored pen right here, and I want to talk about the differences between ego and authentic self. And I want you to what I'm telling you is that when we make a decision like this from our ego, we are ultimately going to regret it. And that decision is going to keep changing. But when we make it from a very authentic, deep place within us that is solid and grounded, no matter what you do, and whatever, because with every choice, there's going to be pros and cons. So any cons that come in the way of that decision, you're going to be able to deal with them. You're not only going to be able to make that decision, but you're going to be able to do everything that you need to overcome everything that needs to happen in its way. So I'm going to try my best to tell you the difference between ego and an authentic self. I wonder how that's coming. Can you? I'm just going to write AS for authentic self. Can you, is this coming out like can you read it properly?
Yes.
Oh, you can.
Yes.
Okay. I was
Yes.
wondering if the camera is reversing the letters. So just to know the differences, the ego, the MO for the ego, or the thing that drives it, is comfort, surety, and safety. So these are the things that it wants to. This is the MO for ego.
Okay.
And authentic self really doesn't care about these things. The authentic self is already comfortable. It is already a secure, safe, and it is always sure. There's no like maybe kind of thing in it. Um, oh wow, it just marked myself. So that's one part of it. Now, ego relies on information. It needs a lot of information to make a decision. It needs, it needs to look into things. It needs. a lot of this, but and information, as we know, changes. But the authentic self needs zero information to make a decision that's sound and solid and it doesn't change because it has inner wisdom. How about this? Do you follow me here? This
Oh,
has information and this.
absolutely. Yes, I'm following you.
Will you ask me any questions that come up?
Yeah, I'll ask you any questions
Good.
that
You
come.
can interrupt me and ask me questions. So this is really it's really cool because whatever decision comes, it's coming from a place inside you that's solid. So the information usually you get from whatever culturally from. Am I writing culture? Culture, Ture, for culturally, like the norms, the social norms, the mores, all of that stuff, what people think.
Yes.
It comes from like fear of, stuff we've seen in the movies or stuff where people are telling us we should be scared of. It comes from a lot of these things, um, but wisdom doesn't need any of that. In fact, wisdom doesn't care about any of these things. It has its inner morality. It has an inner mechanism. It has an inner organization of this, and it is extremely representative of who you are.
Okay.
So the other thing that I will tell you is that the ego is when ego wants to say something, like it has an idea that, hey, you're not going to be comfortable this way, this is not really so sure, it doesn't sound very sure, this doesn't sound very safe. Safety is a huge thing. This one is a huge thing, right? We know.
Yeah, for a marriage, safety is very huge.
If you check in right now, Victoria, there is a lack of safety inside, right?
Absolutely.
That lack of safety does contribute to the confusion, yes, of making a decision.
Absolutely. It's going to
When we
contribute to
come to
that.
a place like the one you're in, you begin to lose faith in yourself that you are making the right decision. It felt right when I left him, but now it's not feeling right. Maybe there's
Yeah.
something wrong with me. Do you,
Yes.
do you feel that that could be accurate, what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I'm questioning things day in and day out. That's my head's just spinning with all the what ifs. And if I do this, could this turn out better? If I choose to do this, could that turn out better? Do I need to test this to see if it's going to happen the way that I want it to happen? There's so many questions and what ifs, and my mind will
And
change
I'm
sometimes.
noticing as you're speaking that there are all these scenarios that come up and you see them
Yes.
through in your head because you're thinking from your head at that time, not your heart. And
Yes.
all of this information and these fears and whatnot, what my mom said, what that movie said, what whoever said, what that celebrity divorce was like, other kinds of things, right? These
Yes.
information, you're not pulling them out from God knows what, right? They
Right.
are there, that is information.
Yes.
And a lot of times when you listen to it, it's totally like making sense.
Oh, absolutely. I can make
Which
sense
makes it
of
free.
it. Does. Yeah, because I can make sense of things both ways. Like, I'm like, well,
Yes,
I'm gonna have to get a job no matter what I do, and my son's gonna or
yes.
my child is gonna have to go into daycare no matter what I choose to do. Or, I can play both sides of the story and try to, sometimes talk myself in or out of one scenario that could be better than the other because I'm putting so many different avenues or options in on my own.
Wow. And even as you speak about it, can you tell, like, if you check in your body, how does that feel? All of that.
How does it make my body feel?
Yeah. Just even
Anxious.
anxious. Yeah. And
So anxious.
so anxious. And that is like, I'm the reason I'm making this list is because ultimately your answer lies in making a decision from the authentic self. I could have written that out. And and one of the things I need to do in this session is keep on reminding you and trying to identify when you're in here. If you're anything less than completely calm, I'm not talking about numb, but completely calm
Yes.
and safe inside, then you're not in your authentic self, you're in your ego.
Okay.
And what I want to tell you is
I
that
feel like I spend most of my time in my ego. I feel like I spend most of my time in my ego.
yes, and one of the biggest things for ego is going to be fear. I'm going to just, I don't know, can you just remember? I want to write it somewhere. I'm
No,
going
I
to,
can remember
yeah,
because that's all I'm feeling is fear
yeah,
right now.
fear. And fear is our protector. All of these things are our protector. If we didn't have fear in us, we might take action that is really, really harmful. But the idea is not to say, ego, you're so bad, you're destroying my life, go away from me. The idea is to integrate the ego into the authentic self in the way that the authentic self is leading the ego, not that the ego is leading the authentic self.
That sounds like
This
a
is the leader
remarkable idea.
to follow. So go ahead, what were you saying?
That sounds like a remarkable idea.
Yes, yes, yes. And so the idea is to turn every moment that you find fear. And God knows fear comes, man. Fear gives us such a great opportunity. Every time you find fear, the idea is to move it to faith. Faith sounds very religious-y. So,
Yes.
other words, trust. Trust in what? Your inner self, your whole agency of yourself, knowing that there's inner intelligence within you. And every time you have fear and you make the move, you recognize the fear. Don't throw it away in the garbage. Don't say you're bad, you're mean, but to have a great relationship with fear where you recognize it and you come upon it with understanding and love, where you listen to it, not ignore it, and then just bring it like you would bring a child to faith. You're already a mother, you know how to nurture. So to nurture,
Yes.
because these are usually very young places inside us. If you ever listen to your fear, just a little bit, it's going to sound something like this. Oh, I'm going to be on the streets. I'm going to be homeless. My kid will be like, you're going to have these images like that. They're really like, like children have those catastrophic images. I had once an executive in a very large firm who, when I followed his fear, I wonder if you know how therapists follow the fear, like, what about this? What about this? Even though I'm coaching right now, I'm not doing therapy, but that's how, even in coaching, you follow, we followed his fear and it came to the end, he had a vision of him being homeless. And
Yes.
his whole thing was that if my wife leaves me, then I'm going to lose all motivation for life. And then he started laughing about it too. He said, "Oh, I know that's not true." He was very, very wealthy man, but the
Yes.
truth is that it felt true.
Yes.
The idea is, Victoria, that we can't leave the fear. Um, we can't leave it unconscious. We have to become conscious about it. We have to discern it, and we have to bring it out in the open. There's another word I'm looking for and it's not coming to me right now, but every time you make a movement from fear to faith, this is how you get psychological emotional confidence. You don't
Okay.
need to do this many times to start getting confidence. Maybe you can count on your hands 5 times when you actually feel fear. You feel it, you recognize it. Another word is conscious of it. You feel it, and then you tune in, right? You tune
Hmm.
into it and you bring it. You nurture it. When you nurture it, it's coming to faith. It's coming to trust. This is the hero's journey.
Okay.
We're constantly going to get this opportunity.
Yeah.
As we do the work, this work that I'm speaking about, you will have less moments of fear And when you have less moments of fear, the distance between here to there is just going to become shorter, shorter, shorter. Doesn't mean we ever have no problems, but we have this confidence that we are able to handle our problems
Yes.
from a place that is within us. Now, if you tell me that the keys to my cage lie in somebody else's, my husband's hand, my youth's hand, like my beauty, my education, my money, my children, then my security is just as solid as the first time any of these things, people, and situation change.
Yes.
And we're talking about, so when you come to a place, Victoria, like the one that you're in, you don't come from this place of completely like being, would you say this would be some kind of a rock bottom for you, Victoria?
Or rock bottom. Yes.
Would you say that this state that you're in is some kind of a rock bottom for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very, very hard emotionally. I can feel your pain.
Yeah, it's the hardest emotional thing I've ever dealt with. I mean, this to me is the biggest decision of my life.
Yeah, yeah. And you can't heal this part, be in this place and heal it in a fake way. Heal
No.
it relying on, is, for example, if you make this decision to go back to your husband because your husband is doing so well, he's behaving so well, right?
Yes.
I think the fear is that what if I get there and in a little while he stops?
Absolutely. That is a huge fear. I mean, some people.
But we have to take him out of the equation. He's just not that important. Nobody, no, yeah. Is that funny?
Sorry, I find that very amusing.
Yeah. Why? Tell me.
What you say is just not that important.
He's just not that important. Nobody. Not, I'm not saying about your particular husband because as if I know him, my husband, my anybody else that's outside me, my children, nobody is that important that they define the most basic need for you of safety, right? So when you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of need, which is like a pyramid, and you look at the bottom of the pyramid, that is like the most essential things, and they have shelter and food and security and all of that stuff. Unless you have that, how are you going to go to upper limits of, wonderful thought and love and inspiration and creativity? You're not going to be able to get there. So you don't outsource that little core part to anybody but yourself after you've been hurt like this.
Yes.
The pain that you're experiencing now, Victoria, is not a punishment. It's not a test. It is a beautiful opportunity. It is an invitation for you to move yourself from these little happiness and satisfactions to higher order and more reliable and sustainable fulfillment and love and joy that comes from within you, within a source inside you, your inner genius, your inner counselor, your inner, so that it is not dependent, so that it does not require anybody's contribution or permission.
That sounds fantastic.
Imagine if you go back and your entire safety depends on your husband doing or not doing things. So, what I'm really saying, in other words, is Victoria, you cannot go back to your husband because of what he's saying and not saying.
Okay.
I can repeat that funny thing that he's just not that important. At
That
the
is
end of
funny.
the day, you are the one who's going to live with your decision.
That is very true.
You have to go there because of you, right? And I'm going to
Yes.
write down the 4 manipulators. And look, this was the last part of my pad. So now we're here. And so the 4 manipulators, oddly satisfying to write on. And then the 4 manipulators are guilt. I want you to please remember these. Write them down somewhere. Over responsibility, I always end up saying. role playing, and transaction. When you have, I don't know how I've spelled these, but this says transaction. Oh my God, it definitely does not say transaction. Here we go. Anyway, the point is that this is what I call the four manipulators.
Okay.
And we want to make sure, Victoria, that when you have been given such a tough kick in your gut, when the mere floor from your rug from your feet has been pulled, when your life has been set upside down and everything that you knew is in question, that you
Yes.
do not, from this point, create something that's not real. And when these are the four things that we are taught as children, not because people hate us, because they're just mean, but because this is what they knew the best. It makes us, when we are acting from guilt over responsibility, role playing, and transaction, it really, we are good members of the society. We are good consumers. We are good children. We're a good girl. You know what I'm saying? But
Yes.
but this is called approval dependency, which many times is spun to us or given to us in the name of love. And it's not love, it's dependency. So a
Yes.
dependency, that I am dependent on your approval. Now tell me, Victoria, as you look at this list, is this real confusing? Ask me questions.
Is it real confusing
Is it,
to
do you
me?
get what I'm saying over here?
I understand everything that you're saying. I've actually said that, not in the exact words, but approval dependency. I have always sought out other people's approval to validate myself. I have always sought that. Even when I was in school, I would do a mathematic equation correct, and I would still go up and ask the teacher and say, "Did I do this correctly?"
Yeah,
The teacher would say, "Of course you did. You know that you did, but you still are coming up here and asking me just for verification." And
yeah, for
part of it
me
is
too, Victoria. I know this very well too in my previous life.
perfectionism.
Like,
If you
what does
strive,
it feel like when we do that?
well, I guess it kind of gives you a little bit of a boost just because someone is authenticating that you did it
Yeah.
properly.
But the
You're
effect is
getting,
that then you become their dependence.
yes,
Another word for dependency is addiction. If we practice this over time, we can't really let these things go. So if I say to you, Victoria, if we're friends, and you say, "Oh, I'm showing up to lunch with you because I feel so guilty." You're like, "Okay, thank you. Please don't show up at lunch if you're going to feel guilty."
yeah, I feel a lot of guilt for separating my family. I feel a lot of guilt, thinking that I failed as a wife by making this decision. I do feel guilt, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of
And
guilt.
so this is the reason I'm showing you this list, because your decision cannot be made from guilt. It cannot be made from over responsibility for your child. Understand that your child has his own destiny, that most likely it's not as bad as you're making it out to be. That you don't get to decide what happens or doesn't happen to him, but you do get to decide if you are going to be there and love him or her or them at
Yeah.
any time that
Yes.
go through anything, that you don't.
That's a hard one to accept too.
Yeah, what?
That's a hard one to accept too, that you
Yes,
can't.
all of these are hard. They're the easiest and they're the hardest. Why? Because what we get used to, what we get comfortable with, what we get used to, we start getting comfortable with. Even when that comfort becomes really, really uncomfortable for us, we keep doing it because it's familiar. There
Yes.
is that comfort and familiarity, even when that is selling us out, even when we're
Mhm.
selling ourselves out, we continue to do it. I know that from personal experience too, how difficult it is to see this. But this is a matter of consciousness, just becoming conscious of this. So don't make a decision from role playing. I have to make a decision because of my son, because I'm a wife, because I'm a woman, because I'm whatever it is. Be a human. When we role play, we're not really seeing the humanity in us and the humanity in other people. We're just busy playing a role. And sometimes when we wake up, we don't really like what we see. And transaction is simple. It's doing something to get something, which sounds very simple because it could be like a thing. But the other part is that it could also be that if I do this for you, you'll like me. That if I do this for you, then you'll be happy.
Yes. And that's how I've lived a lot of my life.
And me too in the past. And it's hard. And it leads us to approval dependency, of living in this place of constant, like, oh, like, there's a part of us inside us that is not feeling okay. It's not feeling okay. And what we do is we're so tuned in to having our beam of awareness that goes like this. Imagine like a lighthouse and a beam or a radar that's going out like this and beaming out. And
Yes.
we have a beam of awareness tuned in so much on the outside. There's so much going on the outside and we never look within.
Yes.
And our excuse for not looking within, which is, by the way, an inexcusable thing. And it's not something you can outsource. Our excuse is that we're busy looking at you, I'm busy loving you, so you have to love me. These are all myths. And I speak about myths in a lot of these videos that I put out. If you ever want to see, you can see those. That really, I call them relationship myths that spoil relationships. I definitely want to finish this. One of the things that I'll tell you about ego is that when the ego is speaking to you, it's going to be a solicitor. It's going to solicit you. It's going to be like a salesman. If you do this, it's going to do that. It's going to make you feel, wait a second, all of these things, guilt,
Yes.
responsibility. It's going to, oh, you don't feel guilty, then this, then that. And do you see when you were speaking, Victoria, about all of the different scenarios that run through your head?
Yes.
That's the one. That's the one. You are, it's almost like a lightsaber fight that you're fighting. You do this one and then you turn around and then there's another one and it becomes completely exhausting.
It is. It consumes every second of every day when you
Now,
have the ability to um focus your attention on it, and being a stay-at-home person, that's all you have time to do really is
yeah.
think.
And what I want to tell you is that you don't have to be a stay at home person to do that. People can
Well,
entirely work this out without staying at home. You may
no,
have
no, no. I,
to
I'm
stay at
I
home.
can I can appreciate what you're saying, but I guess I'm
Yeah,
just saying it gives you the
unfortunately, none of that works. We all do it until we become conscious. Understand that we have years and years of training in this. And we're
yes,
told that if we don't live like this, we're not going to be loved, which is a lie. If we live like this, for example, if I love my children, because if I know this is the only way I've been taught to love, then I'm going to love everything, including my kids, this way. If I love my kids, if I love my partner, if I love my friend, and I love her from all of these places, am I loving her? Mm-mm. No, I'm not loving her. I'm just trying to get approval because I'm dependent on her approval for my validation. So I can feel like a good friend, a good mom, this and that. All right. So this one solicits at every given time when we have a problem and we have a question, there's a solution always. The universal principle is that when we have a problem, there is always, right when the problem comes, there's a solution that already exists inside us. And the idea is to subtract, take away all of the fears and whatever, put them aside so we can become aware of what the authentic self is saying. So this one never follows. It just stays there. It doesn't also say that, hey, I've been here for so long, I've had this stance. It's always present. So right now, what I'm telling you, Victoria, is that you
yes,
know how you're coming here for this answer? This answer is already inside of you. It's already inside of you. But what needs to happen is that you need to quiet this part. You need to
Yes.
be leading this part from here. And then you can hear it. So this is already inside of us. And this is like a beautiful, beautiful part inside us. But it's not going to beg you for attention. If you don't listen, it's going to not change its stance. It's not even going to say, you're so rude. You never listened to me. Now I'm not talking to you. None of that. It just stays there. It has no judgment. Oh, yeah, judgment is a big one. This one is a big judger with all of
Yes.
these things and all of this information. There's no judgment in the authentic self. Now, so I said that. Now I'm going to give you the quick menus, the quick reference, the quick guide. Anytime you find urgency, anytime you find urgency in you, that's a really quick indicator. Quick indicator, I'm an ego. Oh, you've got to do this. You've got to find that out. I've got to call my husband and tell him right now. I've got to. Anytime you feel this urgency inside you, just stop and pause and tune in. One of the
Mhm.
skills I'll give you is that get a pad like this and just keep writing as long as you're done writing. Then take the paper off out and throw it away, like rip it, or shred it. Don't
Yes.
take it with you. And that is just expulsion or excretion or getting your energy, negative energy out. Unless you get the wah out, you're not going to get to the shh.
Yes. Well, that's where I need to get, is to the calm.
And it's in you. I need you to understand it's not just in some of us, Victoria. We're all born with this. All of us have it. It's just a matter of tuning in.
Okay.
How does that feel when I say that? That this is within you and you just have to tune in. Do you feel like this is something you can do?
I do feel like it's something that I can do with guidance, yes. Because I don't feel like I've met that part of me before.
Okay. And the biggest therapist guide, the best guide is within you. So I'm telling you that anything that is sad, painful, fearful, anything, like I can say a huge long list, but anything that's less than utter peace, calm, and let me tell you, there could be a very calm voice that says, this relationship is done. We need to call it
Yes.
quits. But when you are connected to this, when this part says the relationship is done, it's not mean, it's not angry, it's not vindictive, it doesn't show the other person up. It's just the truth. When you tune into that, you know you can do it. Now, the other parts of this is going to be understanding that you have more agency over yourself than you think. I have more agency over myself than I think. That, and I always talk about that between action and reaction, and this I'm repeating Viktor Frankl, between action and reaction, there is a space. And in that space lies the human choice, the choice to choose what you want to feel about what's happening to you. Have you ever read the Man's Meaning to Life by Viktor Frankl, who was a psychiatrist and was at one point a prisoner in Auschwitz,
I
Germany
have not.
concentration camp?
I
It's
have not read that.
Yeah, it's a very thin piece of work, and if you ever want to, he's recently died, and he's there's a part in this book that he is standing as a prisoner in the snow, and it wasn't enough to have this corporal punishment, so they asked them to get naked in the snow and work to properly demoralize them. And as the guards were watching, they noticed a very thin piece of wedding band in his hand that somehow got missed. And as he is trying to take, is he taking this wedding band off and giving it to the guard? He gets this grace, gets this epiphany, and he says to himself, they can take whatever they want away from me, because this is the last piece of personal evidence that he has that there was even a life before this. He has knowledge that his family's been killed. So they can take, he gets the message, they can take whatever they want away from me. You can never take away my right in how I choose to feel about what's happening to me. And in that moment of grace, he forgives the guard. And as I was reading this book, I was very offended. I didn't want him to forgive the guard. But
Yeah.
as I read on, what I realized is that this naked prisoner completely freed himself. Whereas we later find out how difficult, the guards, what their psychology was in that time. So what I'm telling you is that you and I was very used to saying things like, you upset me. And then when I wanted to be very polished, I would say, I was made to feel upset. Like it would look like less blame.
Yeah.
It's really the same thing. What I want you to know is that this work is independent of your husband, of any human being. This is work in the self, within yourself. And what I want you to know is that, for example, if I am, obviously, I'm not an African American woman, let's say, that I'm walking down the street and somebody does an African American slur on me. Now I'm like, wow, racist, and I don't like it. But
Hmm.
because I don't have the pain in me that if I would have had if I was truly from the legacy and the pain that comes from being an African American individual, it's not hitting that place. I may a little bit think that this person on the street might be a little like, compromised,
Right.
mentally compromised. I am a little bit like, and I'm walking. I don't approve, but you know what? It's not. Now, if they say a racial slur to me that is very in line with who I am, then you got my attention. Then you got my attention because it has been bred into me from childhood. So you know, you and I can't offend you, Victoria. I just can't. If unless that pain already exists inside you, imagine four friends sitting. There's a person who comes and he is very rude. None of us like that he's rude, and but one of us just can't let it go. Just can't the whole evening, and we're like, you know what, chill. Yeah, it wasn't good. Just let it go. But she can't let it go. Why? Because there's something in her that it's evoking. Are you
Yes.
following me?
I'm following you. Yes.
Every point of pain and discomfort is an opportunity. We are taught as soon as I got a pain, point a finger. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. And we go tell our friends and they egg us on that, yeah, it's this, you know, but that doesn't do anything. In fact, it keeps us away from, it keeps us busy. It keeps us busy from tuning into what we need to work on, which is ourselves. And
That
as
makes
soon as
sense.
you get pain, that is the moment you go in and you find out which part is hurt inside me and what can I heal.
Yes.
And when you start moving from fear to faith, from pain to healing, right? When you start moving from pain to healing, every time you do that, every time you literally walking around trying to see when I'm going to get pain. And when you get pain, you tune in.
Yes.
You heal that part of you with love because love is what heals. Healing is the application of love. This is Dr. Ron and Mary Helnick's definition. Healing is the application of love or loving to the parts inside us that hurt. You described a lot of parts to me. There's a part of me that says this, there's a part of me that says that. They all seem relevant. There's a
Yeah.
part that's in pain. Just tune in and provide love. And, you know, form a relationship with them of nurturing that, almost like you would a baby that, come, I'll lead you.
Okay.
I am noticing my own part. I've become two. There's an observer and there's the one being observed. Do you notice what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Now I have the capability to do something. But when I identify with my part in a way that I don't know who's who, I can't do much.
I understand what you're saying.
Great. So now we are coming a little bit to the end of the session. I want to ask you, Victoria, when you hang up with me, do you have an idea of what you need to do?
I do have an idea of what I need to do.
What is it?
I need to try to tend to all the things that I'm feeling and turn them into ways to heal myself.
Beautiful. All of the places where you hurt.
Yes.
This is lovely. You know, when we are children, we don't neither have the resources or the independence to heal some of the pain that is happening. And many times we develop defense mechanisms. I remember you saying something like it was either, um, did you say fight or flight?
Yes.
Right. And I also noticed you saying freeze because you were like, yeah, he would say some stuff and I wouldn't even respond.
Yes.
There was some of this withdrawing too. So you were using all of those. And all of those are very important. And children who are not able to have that will either, become addicted or, hurt themselves in a bad way or have a nervous breakdown or something. So thank God we had those parts, the defense mechanism of ours, the fight and flight to help us. But when we start to use that now, and we're like, oh, this is giving us success, let's keep using it. And we never evolve. And whenever the pain is coming, we're still using childhood defense mechanisms, which worked then, but now they're going to bring you down.
Yes.
So what you and I are speaking about right now, Victoria, what you just described, that is evolution. It's almost like being on the last rung of the ladder and still climbing. You can't because that's the last step. So if you climb one more, you're going to fall down. The ladder
Yes.
is finished. You did it. Good job. You're at the top. Now there has to be something else, escalator, elevator, I don't know, magic carpet, but not the ladder. It's done.
Yes.
This is your opportunity, Victoria. And this is why I love working with people that are in a state like yours, because the kinds of changes that you're going to make right now in this time that I'll call the critical period is going to be in a matter of moments. Like you don't need to have the constellation line up in order for it'll be in the matter of moments. I want you to be hopeful.
I am hopeful.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do you have any more questions?
I guess just how I need to apply this to myself.
Slowly but surely. All the answers are from within. Any answer, for example, if accidentally your husband somehow comes through and he starts to behave exactly what you want him to behave like, and your decision is based on him, that's it. Now you're dependent on him. The minute he changes his mind, changes his mind and doesn't want to do that anymore, you're screwed. Back to square one. You don't want square one anymore.
No, I don't.
Yes, yes. You got this, Victoria. You can do this and you can keep contacting me. You can keep texting me, emailing me, and I can guide you that way as well. Stay connected with me.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Victoria. And I really hope that everyone who's watching, I promise you, I cannot tell you how many people are going through this exact pain that you're going through. And I'm thankful that you would agree to come here and volunteer to do this. And I really hope that even if anybody watches any part of that and gets a little bit of blessing, that blessing be sent to Victoria and to me, please. And we that Victoria's relationship with herself, with her children, the prospects, and she gets exactly what she wants. So Victoria, you will be in my prayers, and I'll be
Thank you.
holding out for you, and I hope that everybody who watches holds out for Victoria.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It's so much my pleasure. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.